Ryan Preece wins the craziest clash since 2020, NASCAR's already making controversial calls, and Carson Hocevar already has a contract extension. We're going to talk about that and much more on this episode of Motors with Morgan. Make sure you like this video and subscribe for more racing content in your feed. Without further ado, let's get into it.
Make room, Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt. There's another seven-time champ. Jimmy Johnson wins his seventh NASCAR Sprint Cup championship.
Hello everyone and welcome to a new episode of Motors with Morgan. Today we're talking everything from the clash and the Carson Hocevar news that broke earlier this afternoon. Let's start off with last night's clash. It was one of the craziest races I've ever seen. It started off tame in the first 100 laps, then they had the halfway break, then sleet began to fall, then they went to wet weather tires, then everyone seemed not to know how to drive in icy conditions, but in the end it was Ryan Preece who braved the elements and survived all the chaos to get his first win in the NASCAR Cup Series. While it may not count towards the chase or go in the record books as a win, this race is exactly what Ryan Preece needed. And that brings me to the first question I want to answer today. Did Ryan Preece prove anything by winning the clash? In one word, yes. In a race that seemed like no one could stay out of the mess, even the race leaders, Ryan Preece proved time and time again on those restarts that he was ready to take on the elements and the chaos that was about to come. We saw it every single time. They got in that restart zone, Ryan Preece wasted no time. Got on that gas, got a great jump, was able to clear the second place car going through turn 1 and 2, and then down the back straightaway used that high side momentum, got them clear, and then just controlled the pace from there. Now, while we can't really take a lot of what we learned from the clash into this season because of how chaotic, because of how strange the weather was, this is still a really good boost for Ryan Preece going into the year. It makes people like me, who were really high on Ryan Preece going into this year, look like geniuses right now. Ryan Preece is proving that he is the real deal, and I wouldn't be surprised if we're talking sooner rather than later about Ryan Preece getting his first points-paying race win. Now, there was a little bit of controversy in this race. Towards the end of the race, drivers started running out of gas. Kyle Larson was the first one, Chase Elliott the second one. There were a lot of drivers really close on fuel, including race winner Ryan Preece. I think they said he was probably about 20 laps short. Seemed like the only driver who wasn't short on fuel was Chase Briscoe. So what did NASCAR do? They brought all the cars into the pit area, let them fill up with fuel, and then send them back out for the rest of the race. Was this the right call? Yes and no. Look, I'll be honest. I didn't like the call personally. I would not have made that call. What I would have done is I would have told the teams, look, under this caution, you can fuel up the car and then send it back out. You will lose track position, though. If someone behind you stays out, they will restart in front of you. But you can come in and fuel up if you don't think you're going to make it to the end. That not only would have, A, helped out those teams who thought they probably were going to run out, like Ryan Preece, but it also would have helped the guys who thought they were good on fuel, like Chase Briscoe. Now, I don't really believe James Small when he says, hey, we were good on fuel, like Ryan Preece is 20 laps short. How much fuel did you have in that race car? And I don't see James Small predicting this much chaos that he thought, hey, let's fill this car full of fuel. Now, it probably was the wisest move to do that, but do I think he probably did that? I think James Small is a little more confident than what he should have been, but I digress on that one. Now, I will admit that this call was the right one. Look, this race had already gotten chaotic as it was. Between the snow, the wrecks, everyone slipping and sliding on the rain tires, this race had devolved quite quickly. And I think when NASCAR saw that teams were starting to run out of gas, they realized it wasn't long before someone was going to run out of gas and everyone was going to pile in, and we were going to have a 2001 situation in the All-Star race where everyone just wiped out and there was no one left. So I do understand why NASCAR made that call. So I think in the moment, it's a fine call. I personally wouldn't have made the call to let them keep their track position, but I'm not really splitting hairs over an exhibition race. Now, with all this chaos happening in the clash, it prompted a lot of fans on social media to start asking the question, should NASCAR return to Bowman Gray in 2027? For me, it's a clear yes. Look, take out those last 100 laps. This race was fantastic at the start. The only incident we really had was Bubba Wallace getting turned in front of like Ryan Blaney, Denny Hamlin, a couple others. But if we go back to the last chance qualifier, that race from lap 1 to 75 was fantastic. You had Corey LaJoie, AJ Allmendinger, and Austin Cindric battling it out for that final spot. And in the end, it was Austin Cindric who got it. But Corey LaJoie put on his show, and I honestly thought AJ Allmendinger was driving a Chevy-supported race car by the way he was driving out there. I understand the weather turned a lot of people off from this race. It was supposed to be run Sunday. then Monday, ended up being Wednesday. But we've heard from a lot of people in that region that what we experienced this year is complete abnormal behavior for that region. They don't get snow like that every single year. This was like 1 in every 20 years, 1 in every 40 years. Some people are saying 1 in every 50 years this thing happens. And I think fans are jumping the gun on leaving Bowman Gray, especially to go to Daytona. Look, I love Daytona. I love what they had in 2008, 2009, but now that we've tried running the Clash a few different ways, I really like this Bowman Gray package. It's a completely different atmosphere than what you're going to get race 1 through 36. And for a sport at times that feels stale, especially in that summer, having these nice little abnormal races, it really is a nice palate cleanser. I think if we give this track one more chance in 2027, especially with this new short track package, which based on the first 100 laps seems like a success, I think we're in for something really special next year. But now let's move on from Bowman Gray, and let's move on to the breaking news of the day. Carson Hocevar and Spire Motorsports have signed a multi-year extension. In all the announcements that have been going out, they have been saying that this extension will keep Carson Hocevar at Spire into the next decade. Now, I kind of did the math of what that probably looks like. This is probably either a 4 or a 5-year extension. Now, it probably isn't all in one big chunk. There's probably like a 3-year extension, and then probably some team, maybe a driver option at the back end of it. But what I want to answer is, did Hocevar and Spire make the right decision to extend this early? And what does this possibly say about the free agent landscape that we're about to head into? Look, I understand that this is a big announcement, but I think this announcement is way too early in free agency to be making. Carson Hocevar is only 23 years old, and while he is improving, he still has things he needs to improve on drastically. Most notably, winning races. Look, I know he almost won a couple races last year, but just because he almost won races last year doesn't mean he's going to win a race this year. Keeping the momentum from last year going into this year is a really hard thing to do as a driver. And when you drive for a team like Spire, which is a team that's shown that they are willing to do anything to get good results, even let guys go mid-contract, I just don't know how good of a deal this is both for Hocevar and the team. When it comes to Hocevar, I think this is kind of the canary in the coal mine that Alex Bowman is going to be staying in Hendrick Motorsports long term. Look, if there was even a chance Carson Hocevar could have ended up at Hendrick, I don't think he's re-signing with Spire, let alone this early in the season. There are very few drivers that I think can replace Alex Bowman who aren't already in good equipment. But the fact that Carson Hocevar is re-signing and re-signing this long and re-signing this early, it makes me think that Alex Bowman is going to get a long-term deal done, and who knows, we might hear Ally even adds more years to their current deal. But that's all I got to say about this. Now I want to hear from you. What do you think about Ryan Preece winning? Does it say anything about his chances to win the title in 2026? How do you feel about Carson Hocevar and Spire Motorsports signing a long-term deal? Let me know down in the comment section below. While you're at it, make sure you like this video and subscribe for more racing content. Until next time, I'm Morgan Wiebe. Have a good day, everyone.